As a college student, every opportunity you go after, whether it's a scholarship, an internship, or your first job, really comes down to one question: why you? It's a question that really can feel intimidating, but once you learn how to answer it with confidence, doors start opening. My guest today is Dr. Vicki Johnson. She has built her entire career helping students do just that. She's a four-time fellowship recipient and the founder of ProFellow and the creator of the Match Me formula, a system that's helped thousands of students win fully funded opportunities and launch incredible careers. In this episode, she shares how to discover opportunities you didn't even know existed, how to pitch yourself in a way that feels authentic, and how to turn rejection into resilience. If you've ever wondered how to show people the best of what you have to offer so you can get selected for opportunity after opportunity after opportunity, this is the conversation for you. New to my channel, hi, I'm Jerica, and I love helping first and second gen students be able to graduate employed and debt-free. I'll see you on the other side. Dr. Johnson, welcome to the New College Perspective. Super excited to introduce you to our audience. Throughout your experience teaching students how to find opportunities, you mentioned that every opportunity really comes down to one question. And the question is, why you? What does why you really mean? And why do so many students struggle with answering that question?
I love that we're starting here because why you is the fundamental question that you're going to be asked every time you apply to college or graduate school, to jobs, to fellowships. And we really get stuck on it because in the course of our lives, through grade school and into college, no one really taught us how to answer this question.
Mhm.
And because of the way the internet and social media works today, we really look inward and start thinking about what other people have to offer rather than what we have to offer. So we get really drawn up into the comparison culture and worried that we're not going to be as good as our competition. So we really get
Mhm.
stuck on that question, why you? We don't know how to answer it. But really, what you need to do is think about what you uniquely bring to any particular opportunity.
Mm.
And I like to tell students that the story of your future is more important than the story of your past. What I
Mm.
teach in my book is about how to talk about your future potential. And
Mhm.
the better that you can get at the story, the more you're going to inspire people to choose you. But your story isn't about what makes you better than other candidates.
Mm.
Do you have more skills or more degrees or better job titles? It's really about painting a compelling picture of the impact that you're going to make
Mm.
in alignment with the mission of the opportunity that you're applying to.
Mm.
I love to teach simple frameworks for thinking about why you, what makes you
Yeah.
unique, and what do you have to bring to an opportunity.
Yeah, and I guess kind of breaking that down a little bit, I love what you talked about not focusing on the past, because I think that's how we are taught to approach applications and things, but thinking about the future. When did that aha moment happen for you of, you know, thinking about the future versus focusing just on the past? And how can students start embracing that concept as well?
Absolutely. To be honest with you, this was something that is a lifelong journey and thing that I learned. It wasn't until later in my career that I really reflected on how the story of my future helped me get into multiple
Mm.
fellowships. I think it was something that I understood because when I was growing up, my father, he's a Lutheran minister. So I would
Mhm.
watch him tell stories every Sunday that really moved people emotionally in
Mhm.
different ways, and I saw the power of that and that storytelling.
Mhm.
And so as I went into different types of applications, starting with college and then going into fellowships and jobs and other things, even business accelerators later in my career, I was like, "Oh, the story is the thing, is the hook
Mhm.
that gets
Mhm.
the selector to, like, buy into why they should select you."
Mhm.
Because what they're doing is making an investment. They're not picking you because you
Mm.
have the best resume. They're not picking you
Mm.
because you have more accomplishments than the next
Mhm.
person. They're picking you because you convince them that if they choose you, you're gonna take this opportunity and make a huge impact. And the beauty of this is if you become good at storytelling, you will be able to convince anyone to invest in you. But of course, you have to deeply believe in the story yourself. You have to believe in what you're able to bring. And so building self-confidence is important. And
Mhm.
you actually can build self-confidence and build great stories at the same time.
If a student is listening right now and they've opened your book, Pitch Your Potential, which is behind you. So, congratulations on having a book. It's super awesome. What's one exercise they could do later today that would make their next application stronger?
Sure thing. So every application wants to know what your future goals are. And
Mhm,
often that comes down to a career goal. So when you're applying to grad school or fellowships, they want to know what's the career goal. Even when you're applying for jobs, they want to know what are you thinking ahead? Like what's the goal here if you undertake this? So the career goal is a really important part of the story of your future potential, right? Because this is happening in the future.
mhm,
But oftentimes we give really vague future goals and
mhm.
then spend all of our word count and interview talking about what we've done in the past, right? To prove
Yes.
that we're good enough. But really, the career goal is really important. And what I teach people is how to make a really highly specific career goal so that it's memorable and really hooks into the reader's mind or the interviewer's mind. So a highly specific career goal will have four parts. Part one is a specific role like a job title or a type of
Mm,
role, you might say, "Oh, I want to be an executive director or
mm,
in a strategy position." So something very specific. The second part is at a specific type of organization. So sometimes people say, "I want to
mm,
work in international affairs." Well,
mhm,
that could be in anything. That could be in a
mhm.
government agency, in a nonprofit, in a university. It could
Yeah.
be as founder of your own business or organization.
Mhm,
So, what type of organization? And even better, if you can give an example organization, one that's easily recognizable so they can really
mhm,
picture you at that organization. The third part is the problem that you want to solve. So why do
mm,
you want to do this work? What is your intrinsic motivation? And that's usually there's a problem I want to solve. I want to contribute to climate adaptation. I want to
mhm,
help with education equity. I want to build products that people love. Like whatever that is, there's got to be a problem solved. And then also there should be a tangible outcome. Like if I could do this,
mm.
here's the outcome that would be achieved. So anytime you're making a career goal in an application, first you got to leave enough space to put this level of detail.
Yes, yes.
Put in the four-part detail. That way, when someone reads your application, they can, even if they don't know what you look like, they can physically imagine you in that future role. But if you're really vague, the other thing too is that might make you well, it might give the impression that you're not a high achiever, that you don't have
Mhm,
clear goals. So
mhm,
you need that really specific goal. And I don't want people to get hung up on, is this actually what I will or won't do? Pick an authentic goal. It could be one of 20
mhm,
different possible paths, but make
mhm.
that sort of the North Star of your application.
Yeah, I think this is really good. Looking at these 4, which one do you find students get hung up on the most? And like, I don't know, any tips
Just
how to
coming up with the job title at the certain type of organization.
Mhm,
Because often when I'm working with people in workshops about personal statements, they'll say
mhm.
something that they'll give like the opportunity itself is the career goal, but
Huh.
there's nothing beyond that. So it's the very immediate future. That's not really what they're talking about. They want to know how this opportunity is going to be a bridge to something bigger and more
Hmm,
aspirational in the future. So don't it
hmm,
shouldn't stop at the career goal. It should be something that's in alignment with their mission. So even for graduate
hmm,
schools, I say graduate schools have a training mission. They're training people for certain career tracks. They're not there because people love to learn. They don't
mhm,
exist so that you can explore topics. Those things happen. Those are outcomes of
mhm,
it. But really, they're training people to go out into the world, get launched, and to do work that's in alignment with their training mission. So if
hmm,
you don't have a clear career goal, they can't really understand why you need this opportunity more than
mhm,
maybe somebody else.
mhm,
You know,
mhm,
so that's why you have to be really specific. It's really, again, it's a way for you to connect with these, strangers who are on the selection committee, connect with them, help them see you in the future,
mhm.
and make that case as to why you need this and that you need it now and not maybe in a year, 2 years, or 5 years.
Yeah, I think this is fantastic help. I just see like our students just listening to this and thinking, okay, I need to actually pause before I just jump right in to
Yep.
writing everything down. Pause and think about these questions and think about the mission, maybe do a little bit of research to find the mission so that I have a better chance of being selected for these opportunities. This would be a great time to hear a little bit about your story because when I was reading your book, you began your journey by being told you had no shot at a top university and you ended up at Cornell. And then from there, you landed global fellowships and then you served in the Obama administration. So, when did you first realize that your story could be your greatest asset?
Yes, I grew up in Wilmington, Delaware. I went to the city high school in Wilmington called Wilmington High, which does not exist. It was closed down 2 years after I graduated
Oh,
due to,
wow.
academic underperformance. It was
Mm,
really, a school that was very, challenged and under-resourced, so it
mm,
wasn't necessarily preparing me very well for college, but I was involved in a lot of leadership activities. I
mhm.
I was in Girl Scouts all the way to the Gold Award. I
Wow.
was a student class president. I did all sorts of things that showed my leadership potential, but I was concerned that I wouldn't be competitive for an Ivy League school like Cornell.
Mhm,
So for me, Cornell was a dream school. I was pretty obsessive about preparing my Cornell application because it was really by far my top choice among all the
mhm.
schools I was looking at. And what I did, and this was back in the late 90s, so the internet wasn't as helpful maybe as it is today, but I would
There's no
obsessively
AI.
kind of yeah, look at the marketing materials and who graduated from Cornell. I knew I wanted to have a career in public service, so I was looking at people like Janet Reno and Ruth Bader
Mm,
Ginsburg who had graduated from Cornell and try to figure out what is my story for this that's going to make me stand out. Because I
mhm,
knew that I was up against people who were going to have better SAT scores,
mhm,
who went to schools that were academically more prepared than mine
mhm,
was for college. So I knew that I had this competition, but I knew I also had a unique story. After talking with my dad, who's a great storyteller, he said, why don't you talk about what it's like to be captain of the state's worst high school field hockey team?
hmm.
And because I had apprenticed under him unknowingly around storytelling, I was like, oh my gosh, that is the perfect story
Yeah.
because it was a story about leadership potential and
Mhm,
about what it means to be a team player, to
mm,
be ambitious but
mhm,
face failure, to create teamwork, to influence
mhm,
others, friendship, ambition. Just it was all in there,
mhm,
and I could tell it in a really small space. It also helped hint at the type of school that I was going to and sort of the challenges that I was up
mhm.
against because of the, under-resourced nature
Yeah.
of the school. So it just, like, told all these other stories in the space of a paragraph or 2,
Mm.
and that's why it was so powerful. It was also different than the stories that they were probably getting from
Yes.
very
Uh-huh.
accomplished candidates.
Uh-huh.
But also,
Uh-huh.
a lot of students have been told to tell their struggle stories,
Yes.
about experiencing poverty or
Yes.
health issues,
Yes.
and so there's, like, those 2 big buckets of stories. This was
Mhm, mhm,
somewhere kind of outside those circles,
mhm,
and I think I didn't I knew that it was the right story to tell. I got into Cornell, but like I said, it was
mhm,
many years later that I had to really reflect on, like, why did
mhm,
that work? And again, I don't know exactly why I was picked, but, there's something to that, and I started using those same strategies as I applied to fellowships, and people
mhm.
were like, "You can't get into those fellowships, you have a 3.2 GPA, you're not an honor student."
Yeah.
I just decided to go for it anyway. Focus on the story. I saw it as a learning opportunity, so I wasn't gonna
Yes.
fall apart if I didn't get it. In
Mhm,
fact, I feel like
mhm.
I was better prepared for rejection maybe than other types of candidates. So,
Like,
I
"Wait,
think
you're
my
supposed to
mindset
reject me. Let me give
right.
this back to you. Try again."
I mean, I just thought, like, why not try? I mean, for me, it's always
Mhm,
been worse to not try than
mhm.
to let someone tell me that I can't do something. Well, why
Yeah.
not? Why can't I do it? So
Yeah.
then over and over, I found that. And you asked me in the beginning another point. I think really when my mind changed about the story was when I applied for that position with the Obama administration
Hmm.
for a congressional commission. I was probably the most inexperienced person that was applying for this job from what I
Mm,
heard. I
mhm,
was up against people that had a lot more work
mhm.
experience, and this was for a policy director commission position.
Wow.
I was 30 years old, so I had some work experience, but,
Yeah.
I was up against people with doctorates. I was up against
Mhm,
people who had worked in Congress. And I thought, maybe I'm not qualified, but let me give it a
mhm,
try. I had a
mhm.
referral to get in my foot in the door. What I did was I showed up in that interview with a 5-page strategic plan about what I would do in
Wow.
that role over the course of 2 years. So
Wow.
that was the story of my future potential. Like, I came in there
Hmm.
like, "This is exactly what I would do.
Mhm.
So this is what you would be getting."
Yes.
group if you pick me. And, I the reason I did that is I was like, "I kinda have a feeling that no one else is gonna show up in the
Yeah.
interviews besides
I mean,
Melissa."
still now, you probably could do that play now and people be like, whoa, whoa, what is this?
Right, but it shows my obsession with the preparation. It shows
Mhm,
I
mhm,
enthusiastically and authentically want this opportunity.
mhm,
It shows off my skills. It shows
mhm,
off that I'm thinking ahead, thinking strategically about challenges
mhm.
that need to be overcome, and that's what leaders want. They don't care about, do you have the fanciest resume? They wanna know,
Yes,
are you ambitious? Are you driven? Do you
yes.
have an intrinsic alignment with our mission? And are you gonna
Mhm.
make us look good once you get in, right? Like, are you
Yeah.
gonna show up for work? So this is what I tell people, like, you have to go above and beyond. So the spray and pray approach doesn't work. The applying to 8,000 opportunities, but not
Mhm.
meeting people out in the real world doesn't work.
This is really good. These are the things, like, these are the conversations that we have on the New College Perspective. We're really getting behind the scenes. And so, okay, I know students are probably like screaming right now, like, Jerica, well, how do I select which story if I have
Mm.
three? Like, not all of us have your dad's background where it's like, or like you were saying, like, I was an
Yeah.
apprentice. Um, and maybe I have a trauma story and I have this story and that story. How do you whittle it down? Like, yeah.
Yes. I think the most important thing is to choose anecdotes from your life that could have underlying meaning. The
Mm,
underlying meaning is that it expresses that you have the ideal characteristics of their ideal candidate. Like if it's a
mhm,
business degree, maybe they want to know that you're entrepreneurial. Do you
mhm,
have a story from your life where you're doing something that's
mhm,
entrepreneurial? Or
mhm,
if you're applying to a PhD program, that's very much about research and
mhm,
intellectual curiosity. Do you have a
mhm,
story from your life that demonstrates your intellectual curiosity?
mhm.
You want to think about that. And this is why struggle stories can kind of work against you a bit because, they're kind of telling the story of the struggle that you went through, but you
Yes.
want to focus on the transformation, the outcome, like
Mhm,
how it changed your life, how it influenced you, not the
mhm,
struggle itself. But some people go deep onto the detail of
mhm,
the struggle when in
mhm.
fact you should really detail the transformation, the learning,
Yes.
the like, how did this make me who I am today? Not, here's all the horrible things that happened to me. Also, don't tell stories about your parents, even if you're very inspired by your parents. You
Hmm.
can mention it, but you should really go into how did your parents'
Mm.
influence transform you and
Mhm,
make you who you are,
mhm,
care about the things. Should really be about you too. And I know people struggle
mhm.
with talking about themselves, but you have to tell your story, not other people's story in the course of this as
Yes.
well. So underlying meaning, positive about you,
Mm,
and actually the detail as well helps. The more detail it has, the easier it is for people to remember the story and even retell
mhm.
it later, right, on your behalf.
Yes, 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 because, people are reading so many stories
Mhm.
any way that you can stand out in a positive way. Now we read some stories and you're just like, "Oh, wow," and we share about those, but you want to be remembered in a positive way. And I just love, like, all of this information that you're giving us because this is really super helpful. And now I can see why you just took all of this. I mean, you came into the whole Obama interview with a strategic plan. I could see how you were inspired to start ProFellow. So, for
Yes.
those who don't know, what is ProFellow? When did it start, and why did you create it?
Yes, ProFellow was founded by my husband and I 14 years ago. I was
14
a
years.
PhD student. Yeah, I was on my 4th fellowship, in New Zealand. I did a Fulbright
Wow.
in New Zealand. It was a mid-career Fulbright, but I was only
Mhm.
32. And also, I sort of, I believe it or not, I mean, I entered a PhD program in New Zealand, that had full funding because I made a faculty relationship. He encouraged me to
Ooh.
apply. This was Dr. David Johnston,
Mhm.
and, I said, "Well, I can't do this because I can't pay for another graduate degree. I'm, like, in
Yeah.
debt, from other things." But he said, "No, there's full funding," and that was the first time I learned about full funding. Like, "What's full funding? What are you talking
Mm.
about?"
Mhm. Mhm.
So, all of this I had done 4 professional fellowships. I was learning about graduate school funding, an area I didn't know much about. And, my husband, Ryan, who was more entrepreneurial than I was kind of a government wonk. He
Yeah.
said, "We could start a website about this. Why has no one made a website about this?" And I said, "Well, I don't know. I mean, why?" And it was like, "Well, who should do this?" And I was like,
Yeah.
"Maybe it's us. Maybe we should do it." I had him as my
Yeah.
tech support. I'm the person who was obsessed with fellowships. So we started it there. I just
Mhm.
wanted to solve this problem. How can students and professionals learn more about these opportunities because they
Mhm.
are life-changing, but I felt that they were very cloistered and gate kept, and
Yes.
I didn't like that. I thought that
Mhm.
was a problem. And frankly, some people in higher education didn't like that I was starting ProFellow. Oh yeah, oh yeah. But
Yeah.
and they really discouraged me from doing it. They said I was,
Hmm.
getting up people's hopes and that was somehow unethical. But frankly, what we did is we started ProFellow. We made a huge database. We've committed to
Mhm.
making it free access. We started to just feature stories of fellows from diverse backgrounds so people could see
Mhm.
themselves in these
Mhm.
opportunities.
Mhm.
And you know what? Over time, people were like, "We like this. This is great." And we built a bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger readership until finally, when I quit my last job in 2016 from a toxic workplace that I was in,
Yeah.
Brian said, "Just work on ProFellow full time and see if you can turn it
Hmm.
into a sustainable financial model."
Mhm.
So I
Mhm.
started reaching out to fellowship organizations to get them like, "Hey, would you want to advertise your opportunities with us?"
Yeah.
And some of them started to say yes, and so, we build it from there. So, our mission is just to connect students and professionals to these
Yeah.
opportunities, and of course, the institutions that offer them want to get this in front of diverse audiences. They don't want it to
Yes.
be gate kept. So,
Mhm.
that's where it is. So, ProFellow is a place where you can find opportunities, in our massive database. We
Mhm.
also, give you application tips, workshops, events, and articles about fellows who shared their experience paying it forward.
Mhm.
And, it's just a great platform to, do something exceptional. That's our
Yeah,
tagline.
so yeah, no, this story, I can't believe, I mean, we, um,
Oh, believe it,
Dr.
Sharon.
Johnson and I have talked, yeah, about this like gatekeeping thing. I've run into it several times because I feel like ProFellow, you guys are what the new college perspective in the future. We're just doing it via video, like talking to different people. But
Yes,
like you said, it's this information that people keep, and they rationalize it in their mind why a student shouldn't have access. But you believe, I believe that all students should have access to this information,
yes.
and that's our goal to break down that barrier. So, okay, so just for clarity, ProFellow provides scholarship information, fellowship information, business incubator, like,
Accelerators. Yeah, so, scholarships is kind of a word I would say is more commonly used at the undergraduate level. A
mhm,
lot of the opportunities are actually post-college, so graduate school
okay,
funding. So we have master's and doctoral fellowships. We list fully funded graduate programs in the database. Then
okay.
we have hundreds of professional fellowships. These are fellowships that function like short-term jobs. So it might be like I
Okay.
did the New York City Urban Fellows Program. That was a 9 month
Hmm.
work placement in New York City government. That was the first professional fellowship I did right out of college. I had to
Wow.
apply my senior year. So,
Never
you
heard of that.
kind of overlaps into the college world. But so there's all these professional fellowships that you can do even well into your mid career, late career. And
Mhm,
then there's postdocs and faculty fellowships too. So for people doing research at the PhD level.
mhm,
And then business accelerators was something that we added more recently because I want more people to think about being social entrepreneurs. The nonprofit world is struggling right now, but there
mhm,
isn't any reason more of us can't help solve the world's problems
mhm,
through businesses like ours that are
mhm.
helping
Yeah.
solve problems like education
Mhm.
inequity. So, think about being a social entrepreneur. And then there's these business accelerators that offer mentorship and funding. So usually it's at no cost, but it's going to give you resources to build your organization.
Yeah. Okay. So everybody listening, you guys got to go to ProFellow. Um, I actually wanted to hear, do you have any tips on how best to use the ProFellow database? Because we're going to have it displayed on the screen so people can see. But are there any like tips for our first and second gen students that are going to go on the site after this? Any tips on how to best navigate it?
Oh, yes. Once you get in there, you're going to see all like 2,800 plus programs at once without any
Hmm.
filters. So on one side of the screen, there are filters that you can apply if you want to just look at professional fellowships or just look at master's fellowships or others. So you can
Okay.
filter. And there's filters by discipline, location, your citizenship, and others just to help you narrow down. Although what I tell people don't filter too much
Okay.
because actually there's a lot of fellowships that don't have age limits or other types of things. There's a lot of fellowships that are multidisciplinary.
Huh.
So let's say you say, "Oh, I want to have a fellowship in microbiology." Well, think about the broader disciplines that falls under because you
Hmm.
might be able to do microbiology research in a broader STEM fellowship, right? But if you
Okay.
narrow down too much, you're not
Hmm.
going to you might miss out on these bigger fellowship programs that are for many different disciplines. So I
Hmm.
say that, but you can use there's also a keyword search bar You can
Okay.
use words, let's say you're looking for a remote or virtual fellowship.
Hmm.
Try remote in the keyword search, try virtual. If
Okay.
you're looking for a part-time fellowship that you can do with your full-time job or studies, use the word part-time with the dash, or
Okay.
mid-career, or words like, or even if, let's say, we have broadly fellowships in Europe. Europe is the location, but let's say you're looking for a fellowship in the United Kingdom.
Yeah.
You can use the word United Kingdom or UK in the keyword search. So there's the keyword search is really powerful, but I also say too, don't narrow down too much. I just say pour a cup of coffee. We have really brief little descriptions. Sit down, enjoy yourself, go through 100
Hmm.
fellowships. And you can
Hmm.
just bookmark the ones that you want to learn more about. And every database listing has a link. If you click through, it has a link to the
Hmm.
website. Go to the fellowship organization's website to learn the full details about their eligibility, the
Hmm.
application process, deadlines. We're a discovery platform. So this is
Yes.
going to help you find stuff quickly and
Hmm.
things you never even would probably find
Yeah.
out in the interwebs, right? That's really crowded and loud. You can
Hmm.
find things, bookmark them, and then you can use it to go to the program's website.
Yeah, and I would add to that, that students should sign up for the newsletter so that they can
Oh,
have
yes.
that
We send out new stuff
directly.
all the time. Yes, yes.
Yeah.
And we have tailored newsletters too. So if you go into ProFellow's menu bar, we have early career professionals, which
Yeah.
is like recent graduates, college
Hmm.
students, recent graduates, mid-career, which could be anybody with 8 or more years of work experience,
Hmm.
even into late career. Then there's graduate school. So if you're applying to graduate school or in graduate school, there's a
Hmm.
newsletter for that. And then the scholar newsletter is for doctoral students and PhDs or doctorates that are looking for research fellowships.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's huge. That is just huge. I feel like hand clap for
Thank
all
you.
this
Thank you. Thank
information
you.
at just one spot because I know how hard it can be,
Yes.
just taking something from a dream, from an idea of, this isn't out there. Should I try? And then it becoming a source of a hub for all these students. And I think you have like over 100,000 people that are actively
Yes.
on your newsletter and
Actually, it's on the
engaging.
newsletter list. There's even more, but
Yeah.
everyone should join the newsletter. That's what I'm thank you for
Yes,
mentioning the
yes,
newsletter.
yes. No, I definitely want them to get that in their inbox. And so I
Definitely.
know so many students feel like fellowships are only for grad school or for people with perfect resumes. But ProFellow really opens the door for everyone. So, what's the biggest
Yes.
myth about fellowships you want students to stop believing right now? What would you
Mhm.
say?
This idea that it's only for, incredibly accomplished people, really a lot of these fellowships were created to help solve social challenges. It could be they want to create greater diversity in a certain
Hmm.
industry. It could be to fill a specific research gap. It could be to bring attention to a certain issue.
Hmm.
It can even be to build diplomatic ties between the US and other countries. That's what the Fulbright does. So they're not picking necessarily people with the best resumes. They're picking people who are most aligned with the mission of the funding
Yes.
body. So if you understand what the mission is because you did your research
Hmm.
and you can tell that story about how you're going to help them advance their mission, you will be the stronger candidate, no matter what's on your resume. So I
Hmm.
want people to stop thinking about, oh, I'm not, I don't have a high enough GPA or I'm not
Hmm.
this or that. It's really actually not about that.
Yeah.
And I know this not only because I've won them and helped
Yeah.
other people win them, but I actually also work with many fellowship organizations that partner with us to advertise their opportunities. So I
Hmm.
get I get little insights into who they're
Yes.
looking for. And
Just a
they
little
say,
something.
we're trying to solve a social problem here. This is
Hmm.
not about, giving more opportunities to students that are extremely accomplished. It's really about helping solve this problem. So are you the best person to solve the problem?
Hmm.
If so, like throw your hat in the ring. That's
Yes,
what I say.
exactly, exactly. That's such a freeing way to look at it. And I know that students are, not right now, but right after the episode, we're going to go out and start applying and looking
Yes.
on the site. And like you said, taking some coffee and just perusing. I feel that this connects really nicely to your new book, Pitch Your Potential, where you break down the Match Me formula. What is the Match Me formula? And if a student is writing a scholarship essay tonight, how would you guide them through the first steps of that formula?
Yes. Okay. So Match Me is 7 letters,
Okay.
and each letter stands for the 7 elements of a winning application. Now, this formula, I call it a formula because every element is important to the application process. This
Mhm,
is what I've learned over many years myself and working with other
mhm,
students. But it's not about raising your test scores. It's not about having more extracurriculars
mm,
or more accolades. It's about creating human connection with selectors. So,
Hmm.
for example, and I'll run through them really quickly here. The first M stands for memorable. So, winning
Okay.
application is memorable. The second A letter, it stands for aligns with the program's mission,
Okay.
which is something we've talked about a bit.
Hmm.
T stands for timely and urgent. So, what's timely about what you're proposing to do? What's urgent about it?
Hmm.
C stands for capitalizes on the program's unique benefits. Do you know what the unique benefits are? And do you know
Hmm.
how you're going to leverage them and put that into
Hmm.
your story of your future potential?
Hmm.
All right. H stands for highly specific. So we're really trained to use jargon and platitudes and
Hmm.
non-specific language. That does not help you when you're making a pitch. You
Hmm.
have to be able to use specific, compelling, clear language. And so that's what highly specific is about. All right. The next M is for mutually beneficial. So in all cases, you have to
Hmm.
show why your selection is not only beneficial to them, but beneficial to you.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
then finally, elegant, which is the word that I use for a tone that's carefully balanced with self confidence and humility. Because I say overconfident candidates and underconfident candidates don't do
Hmm.
well in high stakes competitions. So you don't
Hmm.
want to be overconfident. You don't want to
Hmm.
be underconfident. But the tone that you put into your application, this is a hard thing to teach. But I
Yes.
do feel like it starts with your mindset. I think if you have the right mindset, which because I
Hmm.
also teach the winner's mindset, if you have the right mindset, you will naturally become more elegant in how you express yourself.
Hmm.
But I have a whole chapter just on what that means, what that looks like. So that's the match
Yeah.
me formula. And then match me, the two words also represent, matching your personal mission for impact
Hmm.
with the broader organizational mission for impact. Like how do
Hmm.
those two like go together and reinforce each other? When you show that story of reinforcement, I mean, that is
Hmm.
what makes you stand out as a candidate. It's not your grades, it's not your job titles, it's not
Hmm.
how many volunteer activities did you do? It's really that mutually reinforcing mission.
I like the word match me as well because it shows that there's thought
Mhm.
between the person writing or applying as well as the organization that's looking. So the organization is looking at you, but you also should be looking at the organization to see, does this truly meet the things that I'm looking for as well? Versus I think sometimes when we're in this space of applying, we feel very helpless as first and second
Mhm.
gen students. We're just like, I just need the money. So I'll write whatever, you know what I mean? Just
Yes,
take me
yes,
away, pick me. But this
yes.
is like, no, I need you to engage because a match me is like there's work done, not on just one side, but both sides. If a student is writing a scholarship essay tonight, which one do you think would be like the first steps of that formula? How would you guide them through the first steps? So
Mm.
maybe just one or two.
It's really hard. I want everyone to use all 7 if they can, and I do think
Yeah.
highly specific is really important.
Hmm.
Because especially
Let's
with
talk
the
about that.
advent I know, especially with the advent of, like, these, like, AI writing tools,
Hmm.
a lot more candidates are relying on these tools to write their
Mm-hmm.
essays, and
Mm-hmm.
guess what? AI tools love to use jargon and non-specific language because
Hmm.
why? It's because we use jargon on websites and academic papers and all sorts of
Hmm.
places, and so what it's trained on is jargon and kind of
Hmm.
platitudes, like, "I wanna make a social impact," but
Mm-hmm.
what does that mean? That can mean a million different things, right?
Hmm.
Can you be specific about what problem that you wanna solve? So if
Mm-hmm.
you get an AI tool to write for you, you're probably missing out on a chance to be really specific about what you
Hmm.
can do and want to do.
Hmm.
And of course, they say, well, you can prompt it and do that, but if you don't know what to prompt it on or
Mm-hmm.
where to start, then you're probably going down a rabbit hole. These are
Yes.
things that, as a young professional, you need to learn how to do some of these things without the crutch of AI and
Mhm,
other types of
mhm,
tools.
mhm,
Because the thing is, when you're in an interview or you meet an investor or someone of influence,
mhm,
you also need to speak with specificity, but you're not gonna unless
mhm.
you have maybe, I don't know, maybe in the future we'll have those AI glasses that are speaking for us, or maybe there's like a little voice
It's close.
box
It's
embedded
close,
in it.
Dr. Johnson. It's close.
But I mean, like, if you're just, like, relying on these tools, you're not gonna know how to be
Mhm,
specific when you're speaking with people
mhm,
either. So,
mhm.
I do encourage people to try to master this and practice this without leaning so heavily on these AI tools,
Yes.
not to mention we're grappling with the ethics of it anyway, so, you know,
Yes.
so be specific, but every sentence in your thing, I want you to look at, am I using non-specific language? Am I
Mhm.
using redundant language? True.
Yeah. No, and I wanna just pause just a little bit and talk a little bit about AI because I think you're helping students, I'm helping students, and AI has just come into this space pretty heavily. But I love what you're talking about with just jargon and how AI, that's what it spits out. And I've been talking to a lot of students about, you need to know your voice.
Yes.
Like,
It
what
doesn't
does
know
your
your voice.
voice sound like? Can
Yes.
you look at the words and say, that's my voice? And
Mhm.
until you have that solid, maybe you don't need to engage with AI as much in the beginning, because you need to know, what do you sound like, right? That's the beauty. Can you talk a little bit about any other thoughts you have on AI
Yes,
as it
yes.
relates to this space?
Now, this is my personal opinion, but
Yes.
I know that when I go on LinkedIn or any other platform, the gurus are screaming at us, "Use AI or
Yeah.
you're left behind." But I feel like, and I get it, if companies are
Hmm.
using it, we need to know how to use these
Hmm.
tools. We can't just put our heads in the sand.
Hmm.
However, like you said, if you don't know what your voice is yet because you're just coming out of college or you're
Hmm.
early in your career and you haven't spent a lot of time writing about yourself, about your goals, this is something that comes with practice. So your voice
Hmm.
isn't something that you just wake up one day and you know your
Yeah.
voice. A lot of it comes from doing a lot of writing practice. And college students are doing a lot of writing, but your voice sounds more like the way you talk than it
Hmm.
does the way you write. But usually when we're writing, and especially in academia, we write in a very kind of stilted, kind of, I don't know, inauthentic way, I would say, that
Yes.
isn't just direct and to the point. What do
Hmm.
you mean?
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
the thing is,
Let me
websites do this
meander.
too. You just meander, or you're using these big words and you think you
Hmm.
sound really intelligent, but really people are just like puzzled, like, what are you saying?
Hmm.
But what you said about your voice is important. So maybe try using a voice recorder, like use a voice
Hmm.
command to
Hmm.
start off your essays. Now,
Hmm.
I am still, even though I'm an experienced writer and speaker, I still
Hmm.
use a lot of ums and you knows. And,
Hmm.
and sometimes when I go into my voice command, I'm like, how did I say that many times? How did I do that? I don't even
You're like,
remember saying that. I don't even
how?
exactly. I don't
I say
remember
like a
saying
lot. Like,
in every
like.
sentence, but I guess that's how I talk. Now, I wouldn't write into my essays or
Hmm.
my articles, but within that is my voice, and the way that I
Hmm.
talk and the way that I think is
Hmm.
there. So you want to learn how to get that on paper. So
Hmm.
even though you're hearing on LinkedIn, oh, use AI or you're going to be left behind. I don't think overly using it is going to be to your advantage for this type of thing, for applications and pitches.
Yes, because as you said, they are trying to connect to the human, to the
A
story.
human, exactly.
And so you want to be able to show as much as possible that that is indeed who I am. Not saying we're both for AI in a way, like, but just it has
Hmm.
its place, right? It's just
Yeah, it's
you
great
should
for
start with
brainstorming.
yourself.
Sure
Yeah,
thing.
and
Yeah.
then
Outlining,
going into that.
brainstorming, or
Yeah.
if you're like have a sentence that you like, oh, I want to, there's a different wording I need for this.
Yes.
Take discrete pieces of writing, but never
Hmm.
sit down and have it write you an essay. I mean, it's not. Maybe one day it'll be so good and it'll know your voice so
Yeah.
well that it could do that. But that also scares
Yeah.
me. But maybe it'll be there. But I'll tell you, the AI tools are not there yet. So careful.
Yes, yes, no, exactly. And um I love how you're able to just give a lot of advice on different topics, because that's in the space, because you've helped so many students. And so can you give us an example of some of the students you've actually helped using the Match Me formula, some of the success stories of students that went from like not knowing to being able to land opportunities, and
Oh yes.
maybe things that we could take away from there that our students could apply, right after our conversation together.
Absolutely. Like one of my closest colleagues now, Rachel Santazero, I met her back in, I think it was 2018. And
Mhm.
had just started one of my new programs called the Fully Funded Course and Mentorship Program for graduate
Mm.
school applicants. She was one of the very first students, maybe even the first one to join the program. So she took a risk with me, but she was interesting because she had graduated as a civil engineering major,
Mm.
and then she came out of college. She actually applied for a Fulbright. She loves international affairs. She spoke
Mhm.
Arabic. She applied for a Fulbright during college and didn't get in. And she kind of assumed that it was based on the fact that she was an engineering major, maybe not a good
Mhm.
fit. Maybe this is more for these political science and international
Yeah.
affairs students.
Uh-huh.
So when we met, she was interested in applying again and also maybe like trying to get a career more in that direction toward international affairs.
Mhm.
But she was working in a civil engineering firm, so doing exactly what she studied.
Mhm.
But she was just feeling kind of lost. She wasn't doing the thing that she was most passionate about.
Mhm.
I said, "Listen, Rachel, you're actually a great candidate for Fulbright. In fact, sometimes they don't get a lot of people with a STEM background
Yeah.
versus a kind of humanities or political science background.
Mhm.
So I think this is actually a benefit. This is an advantage, but maybe you're just not telling the right story and aligning
Mhm.
with the mission." So we worked together, and she ended up going on to win multiple fellowships and be finalists for multiple
Wow.
fellowships. She got a fully funded master's degree at
Wow.
Worcester Polytechnic Institute in like an international affairs field. She
Wow.
won a Herbert Scoville Junior Peace Fellowship, where she could go work on
Wow.
peace and security issues in DC. Now she's working at the National Archives. So she's doing the work she really loves now.
Yes.
But it was just all about learning how to take things that she thought were a disadvantage and turning them into an
Mhm.
advantage. I mean, they always were an
Mhm.
advantage. She just didn't
Mhm.
know how to tell the story. And this is why I
Yeah.
say the story is so important. And just because you faced a rejection in the past or even multiple rejections,
Mhm.
don't take that as the closure of the story of this is what you're capable of. It
Mhm.
might be that you're just not applying the Match Me formula. Literally,
Yeah.
I'm serious about this. Now, Rachel's just one person. I have worked with thousands of people because I work with people in group workshops and one to
Yeah.
one. And I've been doing this for many years. And most people come in with challenges. I have a lower GPA. I have a
Mhm.
learning disability. I have someone who told me I can't do this. I'm
Mhm.
working with the people, not the people who have tons of confidence and lots of
Yeah.
supporters. I'm working with the people that don't have those things.
Yes.
That's why I know this formula works because when people believe in it and they apply it, it really does not only change the trajectory and where they start having more success, but also it
Mhm.
changes their mindset about what they're capable of. And that is just as important as the strategies.
Yes, yes, and that it's just another reason why students should get out there and get the book, so it helps them see, okay, this is step 1, let me read this, let me reflect and try it out. Step 2, let me reflect. And this is not Dr. Johnson is someone who has been in this space for so long and helped so many students. And so that's just a really amazing story to hear how someone went from basically thinking, hey, I can't do this, to all of these opportunities simply from working with you and your formula. And so in the book, I would love to also talk about gatekeepers. We touched on it a little bit earlier when we started our conversation. Who are they? Who are gatekeepers? Why do they matter? Can you explain the different types of gatekeepers students will encounter? Because gatekeeping is very real. So the different types and maybe tips on how to navigate the gatekeeper.
Yes. So gatekeepers are the word I use to describe someone who discourages you from going for a big goal. And
Mhm.
so as we go out and we seek mentorship from professors and bosses and colleagues, even friends and family members,
Mhm.
sometimes you're going to face two different types of gatekeeping. Now, one is deliberate gatekeeping. This is kind of
Mm.
going into the areas of kind of discrimination and the kind
Mhm.
of, we want to have this only for certain types of people.
Mhm.
But it can also be something, there's these faculty members that believe that they should be the gatekeeper to some of these national awards, including
Mhm.
ones that have an open application process.
Mhm.
They feel like people should go through them. They're going to give you a pre-assessment of what you're
Wow.
capable of. And if they say you're not there yet, then that should be the end of the story. I
Mhm.
faced that myself in college and I went ahead and applied. The thing is, a lot of students take that as truth that, oh, well, I'm not qualified, I'm not good
Mhm.
enough. But the problem is it impacts their mindset about what they can do and it's like I think it's the seed of imposter syndrome that you take into
Mhm.
your midlife career. So even
Mhm.
sometimes the advisors don't even realize how damaging it is to tell someone you're not there yet and you shouldn't
Hmm.
try. Why not?
Mhm.
Why not just say try it, see how you
Mhm.
do? Like
Mhm.
what, you
Mhm.
might get rejected, but that's true for anybody that's going into
Mhm.
the competition. So
Mhm.
there's that
Mhm.
deliberate gatekeeping. Another part, though, that is even maybe more problematic is what I call well-intentioned gatekeeping, and that is
Mm.
from people that do truly care about you,
Mhm.
but they are maybe influenced by their own negative experiences with,
Mhm.
discrimination or their own
Mhm.
gatekeeping or rejections. So they don't want you to experience the pain that they felt, so
Hmm.
they're trying to, save you from that.
Hmm.
Or also, it could just be they don't know how to guide you to your big goal. Like whatever
Yeah.
you're have your heart set on, they probably are like,
Mhm.
I don't know how to guide you to that. So
Mhm.
they're saying, hey, why don't you, get some safety schools, like do the
Mhm.
things that I've done. So they don't mean bad. They're not trying to stop you. I wouldn't even say that they're trying to discourage you, but
Mhm.
it does discourage you when someone else is telling you to lower your goals. So that kind of gatekeeping, if you're aware of it, you need to have agency and understand you
Mm.
decide whether you apply for something. And
Mhm.
just because someone discourages
Mhm.
you, even someone who's seemingly a very experienced mentor,
Mm.
um, you gotta
Mm. Mhm.
separate the
Mhm.
truth of what
Mhm.
they're telling you from the truth of what you're really capable of.
Mhm.
And I've
Mhm.
got some big name people in the book that I use as case studies. Michelle
Mhm.
Obama is one. She
Mhm.
says in her book
Mhm.
Belonging that, she was discouraged by her guidance counselor from applying to Princeton,
Yep.
but she
Yep.
applied anyway. She not only got in, she went to Harvard Law School.
Yep.
She went on to become a great leader.
Mhm.
I know entrepreneurs that have had people say, you can't build that business, including me. I'm
Yeah.
one of those people.
Yeah.
As a
Yeah.
female founder, people thought it's ridiculous. You don't have any business
Yes.
experience. Who are you
Yes.
to do this?
Yes.
So there's gatekeeping everywhere. But I do
Yeah.
talk about the right type of person to work with.
Yeah, yeah. No, this is so good. I don't know, reflects back to my own story when I was applying to some of the full rides that I received. And for those that are just joining, I've received over $450,000 worth of multiple full rides and funding and things like that. But I remember the first essay full ride application I had applied to, I went for help. And I think I ran into the caring gatekeeper, the well-meaning gatekeeper
Yeah.
that just was like, probably thought like, hey, maybe I won't be able to guide you if you got into it and so they just didn't want to assist. And I remember being on the steps thinking, well, I can either not do it or I can try. I think I'm going to try.
Yes.
And getting up and it was a huge decision, Dr. Johnson, like to
I
make,
know. Yes.
and believing in myself that I could actually do this. And I wrote it. And I remember the first one that I got back. I was in this room, and it was late at night, and it came through that I received one of the many full rides that I would go on to receive. And I was just like, oh my gosh! I remember thinking, I did it. I
You
actually
did it.
did it.
So
And
you
people
are
didn't think I
another
could.
example. And like you said, I think most gatekeeping is well intentioned. I don't
Hmm.
think it's all people trying to hold us back.
Yeah.
I think it's people that don't know how to help us get to our goal. And
Yes.
that's okay. So as long as we see that, I talk in the book about the best type of mentor, and that's what I
Hmm.
call a guide. So a guide
Yes.
is someone who has a high degree of expertise in whatever
Hmm.
goal that you're going for, but also a high degree of positive support. So they
Hmm.
believe that you should go after your goal no matter what the outcome
Mhm,
is. And they don't discourage you. They say, I'm going to give you the tools. I'm not going to give
mhm,
you opinion about what you can and can't do.
mhm,
I'm just going to say, go for it. Give you
mhm,
the tools for
mhm,
success. I'm going to help you as much as I can with
mhm,
whatever guidance I can give you. And you know what? The thing is, even if you don't get it, and I
mhm,
try to be a guide for people. I never tell
mhm,
people, oh no, you can't get into Harvard or this. I
mhm,
never make opinions about it. I just give people
mhm,
blueprints. Give them blueprints. If you wanna do this, here's the steps you need to take. Here's some
mhm,
strategies. I'm gonna
mhm,
root for you. And
mhm.
guess what? No one is ever, and some people face rejections, they do. There's
Yeah,
no guarantee on any of these things.
yeah,
But, no one has ever held it against me for encouraging them to go for a big goal. In fact,
yes.
those people come back and thank me for
Hmm,
believing in them.
mhm,
And so that was a real turning point also in my mind about mentorship, that we
yes.
shouldn't give opinions about what people can and can't do because we
Mhm,
actually don't know. We don't know what someone's capable of. They're
yes,
telling the story of their future
yes.
potential. So we should just believe in people, unleash them with whatever support that we can give them,
Mhm,
and see what happens. But you know what? If that person faces a rejection, we should also be the people that say, you know what, pick yourself up, try
yeah,
again,
yeah,
maybe improve the effort. Because you need those people as well that will encourage you to try again.
yes.
So that's what I call guides. Now, in the course of your life, there are going to be people that have high positive support but low expertise. That might
Mhm,
be like a parent. Your parent will like love you and believe in you no matter what you will do, but
uh-huh,
they don't have any expertise on like how to go to grad school or, how to go for that big fellowship, right? But they're going to give you high positive support.
mhm,
There's value there. There's people that have very high expertise, but they're either don't really positively support you, or
Mhm.
they might be someone that you have like a one-time meeting with, but they're not
Mhm.
really invested in you in the
Yes.
application. So they're high on expertise, but maybe low on the support area. Find the people that hit both high on support,
Mm.
high on expertise. So that's the
Mhm.
guy that's going to work with you, support you,
Mhm.
cheer you on, meet with you maybe multiple times. If you
Yes.
find that person, cultivate it because they are rare. There's not a
Yes.
lot of people that do this. But if you find
Yes.
someone like that, stay in touch with them, cultivate it, thank
Yes.
them. They're the best people you can work with.
Yes, yes. And here at the New College Perspective, we have those people here as well. But then you could also go to a lot of times like first gen centers, or there might be organizations on campus that you're thinking, okay, where do I go? They might be able to, you might run into those types of people and those groups. And yeah, and I don't know, just be on the hunt, because if you're looking for it, it's going to come to you. I
That's
really
right.
am believing of that. Like, okay, put it out there, let people know, hey, I'm looking for someone that can help, and see kind of what comes your way. I love that distinction between, the guides and the gatekeepers, and how we need more guides. So it's not about doing this application and pitching yourself alone. It's about finding support. So I don't know if you're able to do this, and it's okay if you can't. I'll definitely cut this out. But if a student came to you and said, I don't know how to pitch myself, what's the very first line you help them write?
The future goal. Oftentimes people don't know how to pitch themselves because they don't know what they need to work toward or what they're pitching themselves
Okay.
for. So that's why I say I say let's call it pitch your potential, because the future
Hmm.
potential story, that's the thing that's most important, to make a hook that why the
Hmm.
selection committee should to look at you and select you. So
Yeah.
the goal, like sometimes goal refinement is the first thing first. What's the goal? If you don't know what the goal is, you're sort of vague about it. Let's work on that
Hmm.
first. Then the story of your background and where you got to where you are now, and how this opportunity is can be leveraged to get to that goal, is
Hmm.
much easier to write. But if you start with what's my background and what do I have and all that without a goal, it's really hard to make that story. So I
Hmm.
always start with the goal, making that more compelling, detailed, crisp, and in
Hmm.
alignment with the opportunity.
Okay, so following upon that, I want to see if you're interested in doing this. If you had to give students a 60-second playbook for answering why you in an interview or essay, what would it sound like? Like, I don't know, like pretend you are, I don't know, maybe from your life. Like if you were pitching yourself and you had 60
Yeah,
seconds, what would you say? That, yeah.
I got you. I call it the winning application story. So it's a little
Yes.
story framework that you use anytime you're going into a competition. So the beginning of the story is where you are right now. What has gotten you to this point? What have you studied? What experiences have you had? What is motivating your interest in what you're doing and want to do? The end of the story is in the future beyond the opportunity. So whether you're applying to grad school, a fellowship, it's going to be some career goal beyond that. Or even if you're going into a job, you're thinking ahead. What if I'm at this organization for 3, 4 years? What does that look like? So there's some
Hmm.
future goal. And then the story hook, the middle, is how this opportunity is uniquely positioned to help you get from where you are now to where you want to be in the future. And really, you tell a really good story if you show that without this opportunity, the goal may not be achieved.
Hmm.
That's how you make them the hero in the story. So they're the
Hmm.
hero. You're not the hero. They're the hero.
Hmm.
And that story, I just say anytime you're applying to something, you should really outline that story first before you start writing essays and cover letters and putting together pitch decks. The beginning, the end, and that middle hook. That's how you do it.
Thank you. That was super awesome. I'm snapping right
I
here.
got a little, I got a little like picture inside the book too that you can like put up on your wall if you're forgetting it.
Yes.
But these are all
Yes.
really
No.
simple frameworks, and to me, it's like I've taught this so many times. I
Hmm.
just know it cold, but I realize that people are always starting from square one. They don't know where to
Yes.
start, so this is something to start from, and then
Hmm.
you just keep practicing that story. But you'll see most of the story is about the future, not about the past. It's about
Yes.
the end of the
Yes.
story. It's about the hook, and the beginning is just to show that you have the foundational skills and
Hmm.
experiences that and motivation to do what you're saying you're going
Hmm.
to do and want to do, but it's actually not as important as the future story. It's
Yes.
just
Yes.
not.
I think that's like the shift that students will have made after listening to this, like,
Yes.
okay, wow, I have a story. Number one, I should
Yes.
start thinking about how to share my story in a way that people see my potential and pick me and I am able to match with the organization. So
Yes.
as we are landing the plane, I don't do this on every episode, but I thought this would be a good one. We have come to the lightning round of questions.
Okay.
So, if you're okay with it, yeah, I would love to hear your thoughts on a few questions from our student audience, and
Okay.
I'll just rattle them off. Some of them are things we already talked about, but they asked it, so I figured we
Let's do
asked it
it.
again. Okay, so the first one student asked, "What do you think is the biggest mistake students like me make when we're trying to pitch ourselves?"
Focusing too much on the competition, thinking about what other people offer versus what you have to offer. You get too hung
Yes.
up on that, you think you're not the right pick, but you are the right pick. You have to be focused on your future story.
Yes. Okay, another question. If I only had time to focus on one part of the match me formula, which part would help me stand out the most?
I think the detail, we talked about this a little bit,
Mhm,
but learning how to turn your words into something highly specific and moving away
mhm.
from jargon and platitudes.
Yes. Okay, rejection is something I'm really afraid of. And I feel actually this one a lot. Rejection is something I'm really afraid of. When I hear no, what should I be telling myself or thinking so I don't give up?
I have an entire chapter about the mindset challenges, and one is that fear of
Mhm,
failure and rejection.
mhm,
Here's the thing, if when you face a rejection, it's not a story about your worth. It does not mean you're not good enough or
mm,
you're not there yet. It's just that whatever you pitched, your future potential was not in alignment with what they are trying to invest in, or you
mhm,
didn't give them enough details. So it's not
mm,
about your background. This is what I'm trying to tell you. It's
mhm,
about was your future story strong enough? If you're facing rejections, it might just be that you need to improve the future story.
mhm,
That's what you're not working on. So
mhm,
rejection is not is not a value of your worth and are you good enough? And this is what
mhm.
people get too focused on. You have to remember selection committees are people too. They're
Yeah.
human beings,
Mhm,
and they are being also held accountable for making their investments, choosing the right
mhm,
people. If you start to look at selection committees with empathy as human beings,
mm,
you'll see that it's your responsibility to give them what they need to collaborate with you. If
mhm.
you've gotten a rejection, it might just be that you just, like I said, you didn't tell that story strong enough. So work on
Yeah.
that. But it has nothing to do with your worth.
Yes, it doesn't have anything to do with your work. So thank you so much for sending in that question. And the next question was, besides ProFellow, what are some other places I should be looking for fellowship opportunities that students like me normally miss?
Oh, good question. I mean, I think like one thing that we don't really list is the internal fellowships that individual
Hmm,
universities offer. So you
okay.
should look within your university if you're on campus at internal opportunities that are only open to students at that campus
Okay.
because we wouldn't list those on ProFellow because we're a national platform. So we
Okay.
couldn't list every university's internal opportunities, but look
Mhm.
there. Also, if you're working, I love to talk about entrepreneurship because
Hmm.
sometimes we're like looking for this external thing that some other group has created that we can apply to, but sometimes you can create your own little fellowship inside your job. I mean, if
Hmm.
you thought about pitching to your boss an opportunity to work on a project where you can get the
Mhm.
skills and networking that you need to advance yourself. Just for an example, when I was working at a think tank in Washington, D.C., and I pitched that I wanted to do a lunch and learn series where I would bring outside experts from outside the organization to
Mhm.
come and talk about biosecurity, which is what I was
Mhm.
working in then. And it was a way for me to almost like create a little fellowship inside my job. I got to meet all these high
Yeah.
level people. I got
Mhm.
to get project management skills to put on my resume. So sometimes a fellowship, it's not necessarily something you have to find and apply for. You could create it. So that's another way to
Yes.
take advantage of this.
Yeah, I like that. And I'm going to follow up a question. The person didn't ask this, but like, where do you go to find the internal fellowships at your school? Is there like,
Oh, yeah. It's
where would they be?
I wish I could say, like, every school did it the same, but
Yeah.
I would look at a lot of schools do have a fellowships office, so look
Okay.
there. Although they may not all have, like, the type of fellowships we have on ProFellow, they might just have a
Hmm.
couple. Look in the career office because sometimes fellowships are because if they're more like jobs, by
Hmm.
companies and others, they might go to the career office to post that, not to a fellowships office.
Okay.
Offices tend to be focused on like Rhodes and Truman, kind of those,
Yeah.
just a couple of key national fellowships that have an endorsement process, but go
Yes.
to the career office as well. You might be surprised there's fellowships there. Also, if your school has any service related organizations, like at Cornell, there's the Einhorn Center for Community Engagement that I'm involved in as an alum. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
trying to get them to share more service oriented professional fellowships as a way for people to get into service. Yeah, so you have to kind of look at a lot of places, but then there's also Google, there's ChatGPT,
Yeah.
there's other places you can, although sometimes they don't return the best results. That's why we
Mhm.
created ProFellow. So, just keep looking and ask, talk
Yes.
to people.
Yes, yes. No, this is good because for our first and second gen students, a lot of times they're like, okay, well, where? And I'm like, I understand too. Like, okay, so we've given you direction on kind of where to go. Okay, so the last question is, I am trying to update my LinkedIn. What are
Mhm.
two things every college student should do to their LinkedIn?
Well, first have a professional headshot and do
Okay.
use a headshot and don't have one where you're looking away or doing something silly or with your friends, the arms around each other. Get a proper headshot. And you know what?
Mhm.
Honestly, there's so many easy tools now to get a nice headshot that don't
Mhm.
cost any money. Just get a nice headshot so people can see what you look like, because when you're out in the world meeting people in real life, career
Mhm.
fairs and other things, they want to put a name to a face. So
Mhm.
if your
Mhm.
LinkedIn doesn't have a good photo of you, it's hard for them to place you. But also LinkedIn, of course, fill in your LinkedIn with your jobs, your
Mhm.
awards, your schools. But actually, the most important part of LinkedIn is using it to connect with people that you meet, and not
Yes.
just professional people,
Mhm.
friends, family, roommates, people you met at yoga, people you
Mhm.
met at the social event, because you'll never know who is connected to something you're interested
Mhm.
in. I mean, how
Mhm.
would you know? You've graduated college, it's 3 years later. How would you know that your roommate's aunt is the CEO of the company that you're trying to apply for?
Mhm.
Unless you're on LinkedIn and connected to them and can see
Mhm.
it. You
Mhm.
wouldn't know. You have to have digital documentation of these massive networks. I did a LinkedIn post. I said I'm connected to 7,700 people, which means I'm actually have mutual connections to more than 5 million people. So
Wow.
probably if I'm applying to something right now, I probably have some sort of mutual connection to somebody. And
Yeah.
referrals are huge, especially in this time. You can't get a job, you need referrals. So
Yes.
have a nice profile, put in a nice picture, and then connect, 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 connect. And always put a note with it too. Don't just randomly connect with strangers. They won't know you from Adam. So just,
Yes.
put a little note in there. Why should they be connected to you? Why do you want to connect
Yes.
with them? Yes.
Yes, yes. So I think it's kind of like the the trust. Like trust is really
Yes.
important these days. And so as much as you can build some type of trust, whether it's just a simple, oh, I know this person because I've seen them on LinkedIn,
Yeah.
it can push you forward, as you said, into our digital age. But Dr. Johnson, I want to thank you so much for sharing so much wisdom with us today and our students. We began with the question, why you? And through your Match Me formula, you've shown students how to find that answer for themselves. We literally got super detailed, which is what I love to do on each episode. So, for those of you guys that want to go deeper, I want you guys to check out her upcoming book, Pitch Your Potential. We'll make sure we can see it. Yes. And the resources at ProFellow, which I'll have linked down in the description. It'll be up on your screen, all of that. And remember, every scholarship, fellowship, and job hinges on that one question, why you? And now you have the tools to answer it with confidence. So before we sign off officially, can you tell us, Dr. Johnson, how students can get in contact with you, contact with the organizations, websites, all the things?
Well, first and foremost, everyone should be on profellow.com.
Okay.
And I'm sure that'll be linked down in the notes
Yes.
there.
It'll be on the
ProFellow is
screen.
yes, it's a free resource with a huge free database of professional and academic fellowships and accelerators and graduate schools with funding. So check that out. Create a free account right at the homepage. Get on the newsletter. That's the best place to start. If you want to contact me for individual advising, for workshops and courses, or bring me in as a speaker, go to www.drvickijohnson.com. And I spell my name Vicki Johnson.com. You can
Let's be
find me
careful.
there. And then, of course, you can just, if you Google Amazon Pitch Your Potential, you'll find my book. So come get
Yes.
the book, because this is going to be your guide. If you do nothing else, I would encourage you to read the book.
Yes, yes, yes. And we will definitely have that. I want you guys to remember to be kind to yourself because the world needs who you were made to be. I will see you guys on the next episode. Thank you so much, Dr. Johnson, for coming on the New College Perspective. Have a
Thank
great
you.
day.